So big pharma is, funding the majority of the higher education learning that trains our doctors. And so there is an indoctrination of, again, like, I don't know that it's some evil intention, but it's everybody in their micro fear-based decisions on their own personal security that they're just blinders on in this system. And like, even, just people that work at these big chemical companies or these pharmaceutical companies, and, some of them wake up and become whistleblowers, and some of them are just head down, convincing themselves that they're doing good because that's the indoctrination that they're getting from top down. And it's just mind-blowing to me, like, doctors are, overworked, and the system that they're in right now, they can't possibly truly care for their patients. They just have to give them immediate relief through their, by relieving a symptom, usually with pharmaceutical or an intervention of some sort. And it's just the same exact metaphors. We've gone away from nature. We've completely disrupted this holistic where everything is connected and everybody is just me, profit, 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 short term, short sighted. But it's mind blowing to me that the people running these companies, they're looking at, oh, what a great profit cycle. I create this chemical that we spray on crops that then causes lymphoma. And then I also create within the same corporation the drug that heals or cures lymphoma. Like, what a great business model. But like, guys, glyphosate and all these chemicals are ubiquitous in that you're killing yourselves while you're killing other people. It's so mind blowing to me that they can't see the forest through the trees, or whatever that saying is. We're killing
Yeah.
ourselves in the earth based on, I don't know. It's mind blowing to me. I just don't understand how it even works.
Well, it's like cognitive dissonance. It's like we don't want to believe that we've been hurting ourselves or others. We want to believe that we're doing good. So, I mean, like, even I used to be an actress, and when I would play the bad guy, you never play the bad guy like the bad guy. The bad guy never thinks that they're the bad guy. Bad guy always thinks that they're on some crusade for justice or for something right, even if it's completely, it's usually really misinformed. And that's what we're dealing with here is misinformation around a critically important issue, which is called, feeding the world / climate change. I mean, let's just feeding the world doesn't exist through that model. You cannot feed the world through a conventional model. That is a complete myth. But I guarantee you, the people that are working at these companies who are making these chemicals, that's what they believe. They really do believe that that's the only way to do it. So I don't have any, blame or judgment around that. I think, and the farmers that I've talked to who spray chemicals are like, don't take the Roundup from my cold, dead hands. I mean, literally, that's the mentality. They're going to go down with the glyphosate. And, that thinking, I think, is part of just like wanting to believe so badly that their life has served a purpose of doing good,
Yeah.
you know? And it's hard to face that maybe the way that I'm doing this is harmful. That's a really, especially people have started, and I come from a farm family, so I can say this, farmers are a bit stubborn, So it's my dad, for instance, we started making films about farming, and he's a come from a farming family. He started driving the plow when he was 11. And he was like, why are you making these movies about farming? Like, you're not going to tell me what to do. He's loves to till, he loves to spray. And he read Josh's book, he watched our films. He's actually even in Common Ground. If you watch the film Common Ground, there's this really old, sort of sickly looking farmer who goes to take out a bank loan. That's my dad. That's my actual dad. And
Cameo.
exactly. I'm like, use it if you've got it. I'm like, I've got the perfect person
Yeah.
for this. Um, and then he never said to me, like, you're right. Regenerative agriculture is the way to go, or these chemicals are bad. He never said that. But what he did do is he started sending me photos of his organic produce that he started growing, his regenerative organic produce. So I think farmers, we're not going to get that big aha, you were right, I was wrong, this is the way to do it. That's never going to happen. But what is going to happen is, and I'm seeing this here in Ventura County where we live, which is a major agricultural exporter for the United States. And as a state, like, we produce a ton of America's food. And we're paying the price here in California through desertification. And so I've been having these conversations with my neighbors. And so it's, really, I really see how these conversations go and how sometimes they don't go.
Mhm.
And, again, not a lot of, oh, you're right, but I'm starting to see cover crops. I'm
Mhm.
starting to see biodiversity. I'm starting to see a newfound awareness of nature that was missing before when we first moved here. So it's like inch by inch and acre by acre, people want to do the right thing. And I think if they get the knowledge and they get the information, even the most stubborn person is going to start taking those steps, because that's why we called the film Common Ground. I mean, this is our common ground. We're all in this together. And even the farmers that we think are, the bad guy, they're not the bad guy. And they may not want to listen at first, but with enough conversation, there is movement. But I think the biggest shift is going to be with new farmers coming in with an open mind, with a basic understanding of regeneration and a real keenness to figure it out, because it takes that kind of innovation to do it. That's one of the principles of regeneration, is to farm in context. That's one of the practices. So you're not going to farm the same way in California that you're going to farm in Arizona or Indiana or Vermont. It's going to look differently. So you have to figure out, it's kind of like a mystery. Like, what does this soil need? What is this
Yeah.
environment calling for? What would naturally abundantly grow here? And how can I mimic that and support that? And that's the kind of thinking that is going to bring in regeneration at the scale that we needed to.
It's very simply back to nature. And, my dear friend Zach Bush is like, we've written ourselves out of the definition of nature. And just if you are lucky enough to be in nature a lot and you witness nature left on its own devices always is self-healing, self-regulating, regenerating. And so what we've done is we've written ourselves out of nature, not realizing we are deeply interconnected with the soil and the microorganisms. And obviously we are more microorganism cells than human cells, So like, we are in nature, and nature is so intelligent and perfectly self-healing. We've, with our big minds and our big evolutionary egos, like, have gotten in the way with technology. But if we can go back to nature in these ancient indigenous ways that we're in, symbiosis and in harmony with nature, because we are nature, then the planet starts to thrive. And like you said, the ecosystems and the weather systems start to self-regulate and calm. And it's amazing. You just show like such promising, where you look at the desert of Chihuahua, Mexico, that goes up into, parts of the Southwest of America in the United States. And it's this like baked, sand like soil that's like just dead. Everybody would just think it's dead, not able to grow or be fertile. And it's just so cool with the managed grazing of animals, whether it's like goats and sheep and cattle. It can, just with the dung, and the stomping and breaking up the soil, and then all of a sudden it comes back to life, and there's these cover crops and this biodiversity that happens, and it's just like so beautiful and so hopeful. Like, nothing is beyond repair. And I think there was I wrote a ton of notes, but it was something about the like nature stored the seeds waiting for the right conditions to arrive. It's like those seeds are in there, baked in, and they just needed the right conditions with the farmer in tune, or the rancher in tune with nature, to go back to how, ancient herds used to graze and work, in conjunction with the soil. It's just mind blowing to me. We just have to get back to nature in all areas of life. Our systems have taken us out of nature, and we need to just break these systems, get back to nature, and then use these brilliant technologies to complement and to boost, but not to destroy and separate and disconnect.
Yes, so this story in the Chihuahuan Desert, we feature Alejandro Carrillo, and he talks about how they've taken this huge swath of land, and they've regenerated it through grazing cattle, but we didn't end up including it in the film. What you do see in the film is that there's rain that's been brought back to life, and there's 7-foot tall grasses, and it's all biodiverse. And the secret to how they did it was they had over 200 families take down their fences. And I just think that there's such a metaphor in that, because once they took down their fences and they merged their cattle together, they were able to increase the carrying capacity of the land. So basically, when you think back on like old herds of bison, you would like hear the thunder because they travel in huge packs, not like a little here and a little there, not all spread out. That is degenerative. That is a model where people are like, oh, you can't have biodiversity and have cows. Yes, you can. A lot of what people think of when it comes to managing ruminants is, putting them in a paddock somewhere and letting them graze, but that's not how nature works. You can't fence them into a small place, and you're just doing more of the conventional CAFO model, a concentrated animal feed operation, where you have a lot of suffering and you have degeneration, and you're going to have, the greenhouse gas emission versus drawdown. You can do it in a way that mimics nature with ruminants. You put them all together in tight herds, and then they move. They're never stopping in one place for too long. They're never going to be able to eat away all of that grass all the way down to the root. But what they are going to do is disturb it enough that it's going to stimulate growth of the roots. So they're going to grow deeper, and that plant is going to become more resilient. And while the cow is there, it's going to defecate and urinate on it. So it's going to fertilize it, and it's going to water it. It's going to, like you talked about, the seeds that were there waiting to come back to life. Their hooves will break up that hard pack, and then those seeds are going to be exposed to these conditions. And then the cows are going to be moved on like they would as if they were running away from wolves chasing them or whatever the predator in that environment is. And so they did this in the Chihuahuan Desert, and they took down their fences and they worked together inside of their community. And then they regenerated the desert, and now they have rainfall and they have abundance where before they had poverty, and they had community where they had separation. And I just think this imagery of these fences coming down, it really embodies the essence of what regeneration is, because you don't have regeneration inside of isolation. It's not a me versus you. It's a we environment. It's one where we're all connected to each other. We're all connected to nature. We're connected to animals. And we're working together. It's not about me having more than you. It's about there's enough for everyone. And it's just about moving the resources around to where they're necessary. Yeah. And I really believe that this is how we turn it around for humanity, as we start looking at our species and our presence here on this earth like that. Like there's enough resources for everyone. And if we work together, we can move these resources around to where they need to be. And that's how we feed the world. It's not one person sitting somewhere with a linear conveyor belt churning and extracting and then sending it using fossil fuels all around the world. That's not a model that works. A model that works is communities coming together, taking down their fences and figuring out how to work together to build soil.
Thank you for listening to the Heal Podcast. Be sure to tune in every Thursday for more empowering wisdom and inspiring healing stories. And make sure you hit the follow button on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts so you don't miss that one episode that holds the answer you've been searching for. And please rate and review us so that we can grow and reach more people. Thanks so much, and be well.